And it's time for episode 21 of the Women's Cricket Podcast, a show where we talk about all things women's cricket. We've got Neha, like always. Yours truly is also over here. We initially planned on doing an episode about the WTC structure and how if women's cricket had something like that, it could probably be, in their benefit, and it could have probably helped expand women's cricket, to other nations, and importantly help expand test cricket to other nations. But yaar, uske beech mein bahut sari khabrein aayi, a lot of games happened, and then we were like, you know what? Let's probably park the WTC chat for a bit. We will do it hopefully in one of the next episodes, but we've got plenty to talk about. That's definitely exciting times for us.
Absolutely. I know we had initially planned to, talk entirely about this, but then there's just been so many interesting developments. For me, more interestingly was the, Hall of Fame, inductees too. Would have loved to see a lot more women cricketers getting included, but we'll still take a win with the two that have been signed up. And with a lot of these state leagues also going on, right? It's just very interesting times for fans who are just, missing seeing our Indian girls in action. You still see some domestic players play this, right? So still a win-win, I'd say.
Win-win for sure, of course. Since aapne baat chhed di hai, let's start off with the ICC Hall of Fame inductees. Of course, a lot of men's cricketers involved. There were also two very influential female cricketers, Sana Mir from Pakistan and Sarah Taylor from England. Proud moment for them, of course. Also a proud moment for all women's cricket fans because it's high time that we see the players being recognized for what they've done.
Absolutely, Akshay. And I think this year, with the kind of inductees we've had in the form of Sana Mir and Sarah Taylor, it's probably not just the kind of contributions that they've done on field, but off the field as well. The kind of ripple effect that they've had on the fans and on people at large. Let's talk about Sana Mir, for example. The work that she has done, the upliftment of women in Pakistan, encouraged more girls to get into the sport. She's also very vocal on social media as well, where she has called out people for body shaming. She has constantly just pushed for people to be more positive about this. Has helped a lot of people during the COVID-19 pandemic as well, and someone who will just put her thoughts out there, which is really, really nice to see. I've spoken a lot about, how it's difficult to be a single woman in this very conventional world that once you're married, wants you to follow certain, rules and regulations. So it's a very patriarchal world, but we still have people like her, pioneering the way. And with Sarah Taylor, for that matter, making her debut at 17, scoring truckloads of runs, going through her fair share of struggles as well, coming back with grace, I think she's just that sort of a role model you'd want to do. I think a lot of people will just remember her for, the kind of wicket-keeping skills that she has. It is just unparalleled. You can watch those reels and, those videos of her keeping because it's just phenomenal, right?
Yeah, so good was her wicket keeping. I think she's also managed to etch Sunil Lee's name in the record books because, again, we all know the dismissal we're talking about. Sunil Lee's bichari yaar soch rahi hogi. This is one time, man. But of course, no one will let me forget that dismissal. Sorry, you were saying.
No, but again, the impact that Sarah Taylor has had, right, to bring the whole conversation of mental health to the fore, to be so open about her struggles with anxiety, it's just fantastic. For me, she is, again, that role model. I use the word role model very carefully, but both of them absolutely deserve to be a part of the list. I hope this kind of paves the way for a lot more women cricketers to, be noticed, not just for their on-field work, but for their off-field work. And yeah, let's see what the time ahead holds.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you mentioned there because we need to understand that unlike men's cricket, women's cricket is not just as evolved. Which is why maybe a lot of us, myself included, we might question initially, kaam acha hai, good that, performances and players are being recognized, but do you think there were probably players who had a much bigger impact on, the game of women's cricket, on the sport of women's cricket rather, when it comes to on-field performances? That's where we need to take a step back and understand why, someone like a Sarah Taylor and Sana Mir, they go beyond just the cricketing echelons. Like what they've done, like you mentioned, of course, with both of them, the fact that they've paved the way for youngsters, it goes a long way. We saw what some of the other cricketers also had to say in response to both of them being inducted, and that was so heartening to watch firstly.
Now, Freddie Flintoff, right, the reel that came out of him kind of congratulating Sarah Taylor, it was really heartwarming. Barely do we see men cricketers kind of acknowledge their women counterparts and actually be so respectful about it. So that was definitely one you all should check out.
There was an entire clip, right? There was a montage of cricketers, so Nasir Hussain and everyone, and again, it's fantastic. I'll have to say, ICC, when it comes to content, they know their game. Like, if you've seen even the WTC final promo that they came up with, no words spoken, nothing, it's just silence.
Visuals, okay?
Beautiful stuff, and it just makes you wonder if, like, ये हमारे टीम के साथ क्यों नहीं होता? Of course, invariably we might bring in Team India once in a while. Apologies for that. But coming back, of course, so 2010 was the first time a female cricketer was inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. When the OG Rachel Hayhoe Flint was inducted then. But if you look at it since then, 60 cricketers have been inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. But unfortunately, 7 of them have been female cricketers. It's one of those things where you don't know what to make of it. Like, sure, firstly, you think 53-7, is that right? I mean, there are so many female cricketers who probably deserve to be inducted and all of it. What do you make of that, especially because there's a clear cutoff for the uninitiated? The way ICC inducts its players or former players is, there is a cutoff period that you must have retired at least 5 years before you are inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame, which is why we see the likes of MS Dhoni and Hashim Amla, Graeme Smith being inducted right now and not right after their retirements. So if someone wants to say, "Arey, Mithali Raj kyun nahi hai, Jhulan Goswami kyun nahi hai?" Like myself included, of course. 3 ही साल हुआ है उनको retire हुए. 2022 is when they retired, of course. So give them, मतलब it'll take a bit more time for them, for us to see them. But all in all, do you think this also paves the way for ICC to look at inducting more players? Because if I'm not wrong, this is the first time that 2 female cricketers have been inducted in the same calendar year. Maybe signs of things to come.
Absolutely. It could be signs of change to come in, right? The fact that there's just so many men cricketers and 2 women cricketers as well, it's good that at least they're thinking in that line. You know, we don't have to just include one woman player. You can have another one too. But probably it's also a reflection of how like women's cricket just goes unnoticed for the largest part. I know ICC does its bit, you know, in the promotion of their ICC events and other things. But at large, we still see countries struggle. You have your big 3, which are, you know, just playing amongst each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes with other teams as well. But somewhere there still needs to be more intent, you know, spotlight some of these former women cricketers. I think we were ourselves chalking out an entire list of players, you know, who can definitely be a part of it, but still haven't kind of gotten their due. I hope ICC kind of takes cognizance of others and we see more Hall of Fame inductees. Was such a important moment in your career. You've retired, you've been doing so much otherwise, and just being a part of this list would mean the world, right, to a lot of these players.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any job, anything you do, not just sport, we all seek a bit of validation. And when your performances, not just performances, when your contribution to the sport is recognized, it just makes you feel that, you know what, what I did, it might have been hard work, but it was worth it. So, and again, not saying that this alone is the be-all and end-all, but it is definitely something that players would love to be a part of, especially when you see the kind of cricketers. Like, even when you saw that image that was put out, Sana Mir standing alongside the likes of Daniel Vettori, Graeme Smith, Hashim Amla, legends in their own right. So, it makes you feel, you know what, they are at the same level as them. And that's what we want. That's the recognition we're looking for. Not necessarily the award or the title itself, but it's the general recognition from the sport that everyone aspires. Of course, since you brought out the names, what were the names we thought of? There was Anisa Mohammed, of course. Then there was Rachel Haynes that comes off the top of my head.
And we also thought of, I think, Shashikala Sirivardhane from
Sri Lanka. Exactly. And then we had someone like Anemi Sathatway. There's Kiran Baluch from Pakistan. You've got Minyo Dupree from South Africa. There's someone like, of course, Belinda Clark. I mean, now a household name when it comes to cricket trivia. We all know that, but unfortunately hasn't been inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. You've got someone like Isha Guha and Anjum Chopra as well, who've also made a mark for themselves in the broadcasting side of things, not just as cricketers, of course, which is when they first came into the limelight. But again, great names in their own right, and definitely names that could potentially be considered to be inducted in the future. But yeah, happy to firstly see recognition being given, and secondly, hopefully this, like we said earlier, optimistic to rahenge, it will be a sign of things to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very fascinated with that. And from that, let's talk about the ongoing West Indies South Africa series. Yeah. Just last week, we were talking about the West Indies side, and
looking very deflated and not really in sorts, but I think, just coming back home probably, proved to be that sort of a difference for them in the very first ODI itself, right?
Yeah.
I'd say a spirited performance. There's still some areas they need to probably work on, but defeating South Africa at home will give them a world of confidence.
For sure.
Again, a side that isn't going to be featuring in the World Cup. It just, pains the heart a little bit, but West Indies is still, on the right track. They have, certain performers coming up, but a little bit of a concern with the way South Africa is going about. Laura Mulford just seems to, not be able to get into that groove. Tasman Brits is scoring runs. They had Nondumiso Shangase coming in at number 3, which is a slight, I would say slight, which is very baffling. And even Nadine de Klerk coming in much later, you think, she's a finisher and all of that. But just so many talking points from the first ODI itself. I'm very excited to see how the series pans out.
Definitely, I actually thought I'll be sleepwalking through the series. यार ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं देखने को, especially because यार we saw how West Indies played against England. 6 games, they lost all of them. And not just that they lost all of them comprehensively.
Yeah,
People might throw in the third T20 and they at least came close. That's only on paper. Yeah, that's only on paper. Nothing. There were no closed margins.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like England were the better side through and through every ball of the game. What also makes me wonder is, this is a West Indies side that lost to Scotland less than 4 months ago, and now they've defeated South Africa, which just shows that the differences between some of the better teams and some of your so-called associate teams,
so much,
definitely not like men's cricket. People usually draw that parallel. You know what, men's cricket may, if whatever South Africa plays Scotland, 9 out of 10 times you would say, yeah, it'll be the South African team winning.
Yeah.
Here, that might not necessarily be the case. So that's why West Indies is a classic example. Sure, of course, credit where it's due. Hayley Matthews was back in. And we need to understand, Hayley Matthews is a force to reckon with. Bat, ball, kuch bhi ho. She being there is at least 2 to 3 players being added to your side. Now you have a playing 13. You don't have a playing 11 anymore. And she wasn't available for the England ODIs, at least for the second, for the last 2 ODIs. That would have played a role. You saw Chinel Henry coming in, albeit as a batter alone, but that's still massive shot in the arm because you need some experience in that middle order. And it's actually that middle and lower middle order that's been working for them. We spoke about this last week too. Last week we spoke about Claxton and Glasgow. Once again, Glasgow didn't do too badly. Exactly. You see someone like a Shemaine Campbell batting at number 6. She's also doing pretty well for
Taylor
them.
herself came, kind of back into form, which was great signs, and a certain Kiana Joseph as well doing her thing very silently. But there's just something.
Silent is not kuch nahi. There's nothing silent about Kiana Joseph, but yeah.
Yeah, but really impressed to see her, do well and kind of lead from the front. Again, South Africa didn't put up a massive total, so it wasn't very threatening. But West Indies just seemed very much at ease and they just chased it down.
Of course, with the chase, once again, I will credit West Indies. That was a pretty clinical chase. At no point in time did they seem behind the 8 ball. That's where South Africa, I was very disappointed because make no mistake. Yeah, this is a full strength South African squad. Sure, Maizan Kaap isn't playing or did not play the game, but she's a part of the squad. So you cannot argue that you didn't have a full strength 11. You had the likes of Ayabonga Khaka, you've got someone like a Malaba, Shangase herself, not some rookie spinner or something. She's played, and then you've got someone like an Ayanda Khlubi.
Yeah.
So, kya pata nahi tha. It was very bizarre the way they went about their bowling firstly, and with the batting, man, Laura Wolfhard getting run out, and Nondumiso Shangase at number 3. If that wasn't shocking enough, she decides to run herself out. And I did ask my stats man if he could prove this, but there's no way of verifying this. I genuinely think this is the first instance in the history of women's cricket, first 2 wickets run out mein gaya. Run out mein gaya. Kitna matlab, you can't lose your top 3, 2 of your top 3 to run outs.
Yeah.
And let alone it being someone like a Laura Wolfhard, who is a very important cog in that South African wheel. Tasman Brits, massive positive. Nadine de Klerk, very impressed with the way she took on the bowlers from the get-go. And I think they have zeroed in on Nadine de Klerk as the finisher. Number 7, number 8, wo entry point based on what the situation is. She will be coming in post the 40th over and help give them that impetus towards the end. That's the role. I was expecting a lot from Annery Dirksen. Like always, Dirksen, I'm going to be overly critical only because I know you have the potential.
Victim of her own standards, did very well in the tri-series, and from the time she kind of made her debut.
She was the highest run scorer there, right? In the tri-series, yeah. So, and again, she has all the potential. I will cut her some slack here because that ball, I don't know if you saw how she got out. She got out trying to pull a fairly shortish Afi Fletcher delivery, just stayed a bit low and unfortunately she was caught off guard.
But credit to West Indies, the way they were kind of bowling, right? Karishma Ramharan, the way she kind of just paved the way for all of those wickets to come in. I think the rest of them just came to the party and delivered. But this looks like a very listless South Africa. Concerning signs, I'd say, ahead of the World Cup. I know the conditions are going to be different, but losing to West Indies is not going to, do your confidence a world of good. Yeah.
It's a bowling that I would be even more concerned with. Because if I look at the way they batted, I think West Indian bowlers also, pulled up their sleeves. They definitely punched above their weight. We spoke about Afi Fletcher having a torrid time in England. यहाँ पे पहले 3 ओवर में सिर्फ 4 रन दिया था. She actually bowled very well there. And even Karishma Ramharan, like you mentioned earlier, Alain was also not too bad. Yeah. Neither was Janelia Glasgow, who I realized very recently कि Janelia है भाई, जैसे Janelia Deshmukh है. I was blown because the spellings aren't even remotely connected.
Yeah, but-
So it was crazy, but she was also not too bad at all. Everyone kept it tight. Zaida James with the new ball started off with a proper howler, very juicy full toss that wasn't dispatched anywhere. But after that, she really got into a groove very quickly. So happy to see with the way it's coming together. That's why South African bowlers.
Without Marizan Cup, they just look like
Sure.
lost herd, yeah.
Sure, I mean, Maizan coming in would be a massive boost, but yaar, even by yourselves, matlab, control the controllables. Kya bowling karo yaar, kya na Joseph? I think I can do a 20-minute long rant on just how bad bowlers have been bowling to Kiana Joseph. Like, I can't believe, like, kya kar rahe ho tum log? I'm sorry, she's improved her batting massively. I'll have to give her credit there. Because this is something we spoke about in the last episode as well. She slowly started, playing through the offside. She started developing those shots. Even yesterday, there were a couple of short balls that she dispatched.
Yeah.
Initially, like during the T20 World Cup, if someone asked me how to target, I would have just said bang it in short, back of length, not short ball, but back of length, Dalu, take it across.
Yorkers also, no?
So either that, go very full or drag it back. It's the in-between length. It's the slot balls that you shouldn't be bowling. And Chloe Tryon, I don't know what gift-giving spree was she in. Just bowling in the slot again and again. And Kiana Joseph is more than happy to take those gifts. She just kept dispatching her for boundaries left, right and centre. Even Ayanda Khlubi, the way she bowled, and she actually bowled well to Kiana, but in the second half when she came back after the rain interruption and when the score was reduced, when DLS came into picture, the way she bowled, man, she conceded 15-20 runs or something like that, and you were defending, 50 of 7. You can't do that. That's where, again, bowling just not up to the mark. Malaba also had a very bang average, to say the least, to be very polite. And that's where she is your experienced spinner. She is supposed to be spearheading that spin attack. So, if wo acha nahi karengi, then that leaves a massive hole. So, just all in all, bowling has to massively step up. Because they've got the names there. You've got the experience of Ayabonga Khaka and someone like a Nonkululeko Malaba. You've got someone like a Shangase who can do well, who's a more than decent off spinner. You've got Klubi, you've got Aneri Dirksen if you want. You've got Sunil Lees if you want as
Chloe
another.
Tryon as a backup somewhere at some point.
Chloe Tryon ko to main abhi, sometimes I really feel like shouting out loud. I'll be very disrespectful, I feel, but Chloe Didi, matlab aap acha kar lo. I'll be happy. Once again, happy to be proven wrong. It's just what I've seen. I just wonder, like, what am I missing? Because the way Nadine de Klerk bats, it makes you wonder why she's batting so low. And then you see Nadine de Klerk bowl, you once again think, yaar, isko aur bowling de sakte hain. That's why she's not used. She's arguably the best death bowler South Africa has, outside Maizan Cup, of course. And that's saying something.
It's criminally underused, that's for sure.
So, all in all, South Africa's bowling definitely, they need to introspect deeply because they've got a World Cup coming up in 4 months. You can't, sort of still be figuring out what your bowling plans are. Ek taraf, you have someone like a Team India jinko pata hi nahi kisko khilana hai. Here, that 11 looks settled. Once Marizan Cup and hopefully even Annika Bosch come.
Just have to fill a few holes,
Exactly, like Tasman, Laura, Annika, Marizan, Sune. That's your top 5. Then add Aneri Dirksen at 6. I would personally not have Chloe Tryon, but they wouldn't. So I'm guessing Dirksen goes out, Chloe Tryon at 6. Number 7, Nadine de Klerk. 8, Sinalu Jafta. 9, 10, 11, you've got Ayabonga Khaka, Malaba, and probably Khlubi or Shangase based on whatever you want. That's a more than decent 11 in my head. And
can actually challenge any given team on their day.
Easily. And I too would replace Tryon with Dirksen because I think Dirksen offers a lot of value with the bat. And agar wo kar doge, that's a very competent top 7 to say the least. A top 7 that would be very disappointed if they don't make it to the semis. Simply put. So, when your 11 is settled, now you have to ensure that they are executing their plans well, and that's why they would be hoping, these couple of ODIs, and are they playing? No, they're not playing anyone else after this, if I'm not wrong.
No,
it's straight up the World Cup. As things stand, of course, hopefully they get a few more games under their belt. But that's where I hope they get their act together because your 11 seems settled. You know who are the players, you know who's going to come in. Now it's all about executing and just getting it right. So, yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, South Africa is too good a side, man, for us to be talking about this, about them just not able to figure out a lot of things. And this is a side that in the World Cup, teams will be scared to play because, as I said, on any given day, they can probably, upset you. but they do have that pressure that just comes over them whenever the knockouts or the fag end of the tournament does come in. But South Africa, I think in all fairness, should make the most of all the opportunities that they get in the lead up and just try to figure out a few things before things go from bad to worse for them.
Exactly. I mean, fingers crossed for that, of course. They still are scheduled to play 2 ODIs. It's a 3-match ODI series, and then they, of course, play 3 T20Is to boot it off. So hopefully they get at least the functional understanding of what their bowling plan should be like, what sort of options can they use across phases, who are their phase-specific bowlers. So, and I hope to see Maizan Kapoor. We've not seen her in a while. I don't think we've seen her after the WPL. So let's hope she also gets some game time soon enough.
Much needed game time, yes.
Exactly. And Team India to play is 2 weeks from now, so I think we can stay away from Team India chat for now, because England ka squad aaya nahi hai. The moment that squad comes out, we'll be able to preview the series a lot better. That's the only reason. We're staying clear off of it. But one thing we won't stay clear off of is, of course, the proliferation of the T20 leagues. That's happening not just around the world, in India too. Let's start off with the Maharashtra Premier League, because it is at the fag end, it is at the business end of the tournament. तो उसके बारे में अच्छे से बात करते हैं भाई. 4 teams. Smriti Didi is there leading the Ratnagiri Jets. I guess that's the only time we can be happy about Smriti being there, because nothing's worked out for her. Literally nothing, unfortunately. She's batted well, no doubt. She's had a couple of very good knocks, but her side has just looked very lackluster. For the uninitiated, it is a 4-team tournament featuring the Ratnagiri Jets led by Smriti Mandana, the Solapur Smashers led by Tejal Hasabnis. You've got the Pune Warriors that's led by Anuja Patil, who's a Maharashtra veteran. And then you've lastly got the Raigad Royals. Raigad Royals? Yeah, the Raigad Royals, who are led by Kiran Navgire. Neha, what's caught your eye? Happy with what you've seen so far? Players, teams?
It's been a very interesting league, so to say. I was very happy that there's finally a women's iteration of this Maharashtra Premier League. Again, very interesting facet definitely has to be a lot of former India players who've been, not former, current India players who've been roped in as icon players, marquee players for their respective teams. Because I think Raigad Royals, led by Kiran Navgire, right? You should just see the way the players rally around her. And often see her just, give instructions like this and that. And it's just the kind of aura that she carries. I hope, she gets to play for India again. But all in all, I'd say, the quality of cricket has been great. There have been a few probably, mishaps with run-outs, and I think us also probably discussing it. But the fielding at large has been good. The kind of totals that teams are putting up have been good. The way teams have been making the most of power plays are nice. And I think it's leagues like these, right, that really kind of even catches the attention of your WPL scouts who would love to rope in players like this, because there's only so many like domestic tournaments they would want to follow, because it usually happens like at very odd times in the year.
That's
so,
true.
Having a league like this just gives you more exposure. The fact that it's getting streamed on Jio Hotstar and Star Sports is again a great sign. A lot more fans are just invested. Would have wished for the timings to have been a little different for the women's games, but we will still take it. It's at least happening in parallel with the men's games. And a couple of people we know are also, part of the commentary panel, so that's another bonus for sure. It's lovely to see a, league like this mushroom. And yeah, let's see where it kind of takes us as well.
100%. And again, we also need to be careful with how we look at these tournaments. We also have to set our expectations. So for a domestic T20 tournament, I think Maharashtra Premier League, the women's version that is, has done a more than decent job. Like you said, some of the basics have been done right. I've been pleasantly surprised with the fielding in general. Ground fielding can be much better, but the catching so far has been pretty good. I would even say better than WPL, because I haven't seen too many catches, at least the way we saw it in the WPL being dropped over here. Of course, there are different reasons. A lot of games are being played in the day. There aren't such big crowds, so pressure will be lesser on these players. We can all argue that, but objectively, agar dekhein, catches being dropped are much less over here, so that's a good sign. In terms of the players now, that's something that the reason why I love watching domestic tournaments, is something I've always said, is because in my head I'm a scout. So that's how I look at it. I watch it thinking I am a scout looking for players, and who do I look at? What are the names? So there have been a few very interesting names that have come up. Gautami Naik, of course, has been making all the right noises, has very unique attributes. I don't think I've seen such a tall batter, you know, from, of course, the Indian subcontinent in a fairly long time. Matlab, ekdam tall, lanky batter.
Smriti Mandana
Yeah,
is the one
Smriti
name
exactly is the
comes to
only
mind,
name.
yeah.
And funnily enough, she, of course, plays for the Ratnagiri Jets along with Smriti. Even opened with her for the first couple of games before Smriti decided, you know what, I'll
use
bat it.
myself as a floater.
Exactly. But Gautami, interesting name. Interesting shots. Potential to kafi zyada hai. She's like a taller upgrade on Shweta Sehrawat. That's how I'll put it. Not just in terms of physicality, the kind of shots she's played. Be it behind the square, you know, trying to access the leg side with her scoops, with her slog sweeps just in front of square. She's clearly someone who likes to go low, try and hit the shots aerially and get as many boundaries as possible, which is once again a very, very, very heartening sign. We need more cricketers, especially women's cricketers, trying to attack from the get-go. You might not be able to succeed. That's a different question altogether.
Intent.
Yeah, वो हमें देखना है, and that's where Gautami Naik gets 10 out of 10. She's done really well on that front. She had one excellent knock. She started off with a great knock, had one more knock in between. She's had 150 and 140 odd in total.
The cameo, yeah.
Exactly, but all in all, looking good. Very heartening signs, and I hope she also gets picked by some WPL side, because even if she doesn't get game time, just, you know, rubbing shoulders with some of the best in the business.
Absolutely.
That's all you need. That's the kind of experience we're talking about. That would help these players go a long way and make that jump, you know, from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100. That's where this would help. One name. I'll just talk about all my names first and then I'll let you go.
You'll take all the good ones.
Okay, I'll take two. You take whoever you have. So second name, I'll go for, interesting. I'll go for another batter itself, Aisha Sheikh. Very, very, very impressed. Again, if anything, for me personally, Aisha Sheikh has been the find of the tournament. मेरे लिए personally. Again, if you go by her numbers, you might throw some eggs and tomatoes and make a bhurji on my face. Zyada kuch nahi, she's not done a lot, but the attributes are there, the fundamentals are there, the way she attacks from the get-go, the way she plays some of her shots. In fact, just see some of the shots she played in the last game versus Solapur Smashers, was it? Yeah, it was Solapur Smashers. The way she steps down the track and gets to the pitch of the ball, goes for her shots, loved it यार, पूरा intent, पहले ball से intent दिखाती है, बहुत मजा आ गया उनको देख के. And she, like the backlift, the bat swing, all those basics that I'm talking about for a hitter that's needed, the way she moves, moves her bat and moves across the crease, बहुत खुशी हुई मेरे को देख के. I'm hoping that I get to see a lot more of her. And I have a few more names that I'll let Neha also talk about a few, नहीं तो मेरे को चप्पल पड़ेंगे बाहर तो इसीलिए.
Yeah, so I think the one name that I want to talk about was Tejal Hassabnis, because
of course.
I think the kind of season that she has had has been just fantastic, right? It's not just the runs, the way she has scored those runs. And I think this is, a tournament of like a lot of intent and a statement sort of a tournament for her, not being a part of, the WPL. Would have been a tough pill to swallow, even in the Indian team. You get a go and then after that you're suddenly just like way back in the pecking order. I think it's a tournament like this that just gives her the right kind of exposure. And the fact that she's played in the Indian dressing room, now coming back to this domestic setup, inspiring the next generation of players. I think that knowledge transfer is something which is so underrated. And I think she is, again, a prime example of someone, who is doing that really well. Another name that came to mind was Chinmay Porbhale. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right. I love to see pacers, and in women's cricket, when you see one at the domestic level, you obviously want to grab it with both hands and just nurture them as much as possible. I think the way she just bowls in the power play and even in the later phases of the game has been just very, very impressive. And I think even the wickets column kind of shows that she has done her due diligence. So I think for me, at least these two names have really stood out and sort of made that impact, and they've actually delivered when their team most needed them. So yeah, let's see what the future has in store for them.
I'm with you on some of the batters, of course, and Tejal Hassabnis, abhi to, like, I think it is disrespecting her if we take her name. Like, that's how I would probably put it. I agree with you. She's had a fantastic tournament, to say the least. The way she's dominated the bowlers, almost made them look like some, I say, whatever, street cricketers or something
Club
like that.
level cricketers.
Exactly. Sure, club level cricketers. It's been great to watch her. And hopefully, she also gets a WPL gig, because it is unfortunate. You've represented Team India in the last 12 months, but you don't get a WPL gig.
Too good of a player to be, on the sidelines of a marquee event like WPL. I feel it's just a matter of time for her, for the likes of Pratika Rawal and all of them. Although Akshay might disagree with the Pratika Rawal part.
Pratika, when I say I disagree, it's not because I think she's not a good enough player. It's just that she is fighting for a spot that's completely unavailable. Openers, all 10 of the openers that you see are internationally proven names and who've done well in the WPL. So that's why she would struggle. With Tejal Hasabnas, almost every team is looking for a domestic middle order batter who can do well. Tejal too is a straight.
She fits the bill, honestly.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Like RCB, for instance, Raghavi Bush ke badle, if they bring in someone like a Tejal Hasabnas, you can have Elise Perry bat at 3, you can have Tejal at 4, and then. So that's what I'm saying.
Middle overs enforcer.
Exactly. And same as the case with someone like UP Warriors. They would be chuffed to bits if they got someone like a Tejal Hasabnas right now. Because that middle order, that's where they've struggled massively. They just don't have anyone to shepherd the innings or take it from the power play to the death without a lot of casualties. Tejal again would do wonders. Gujarat Giants, so wahan pe hai jagah. That's why I think Pratika Rawal might struggle.
Fair.
And to close the Maharashtra Premier League chat out, I just think one more name, just throwing out loud, because we recently heard that Shuchi Upadhyay got injured and Radha Yadav has been brought in to replace her. So left arm spinners की बात कर ही रहे, there was the spinner, or there is the spinner rather, Sanjana Ghorpade. Once again, apologies if I'm butchering the pronunciation. Very old school conventional leg spinner. Couple of games that she played, so she looked so good, so good. Flights batters, draws them out of the crease and then tries to beat them in flight. Beautiful to watch. So I liked her action as well. Very easy, very repeatable. These are the kind of things that I would imagine even
that really catch their attention.
Exactly, that even scouts would be looking for, because I think there's a lot of potential for her in the longer formats, red ball and even 50 overs. Maybe not necessarily a T20 bowler, but one last thing, very happy to see a lot of finger spinners who turn the ball the other way. Finger spinners are usually off spinners.
Yeah.
Be it Gautami Naik, be it some of the other names. Gautami herself, by the way, also bowls a bit of off spin with that Kerem ball. There were plenty of spinners who were bowling it from the front of their hands and turning it both ways. Even Kiran Navgire, for what it's worth, was doing a bit of it. Also got a couple of wickets with that.
Very economical spell also.
100%. But we haven't seen any of that in the WPL. And I don't think we've seen much of it even in international cricket.
Absolutely.
Men's cricket mein to abhi bhar ke mystery spinners. You talk about Varun Chakravarti, you talk about Noor Ahmed. There's so many spinners who use their fingers to turn the ball both ways. It was only time before, women's cricket also saw some of it. So I was happy to see a lot of these Maharashtrian bowlers do that. So excited to see how this goes, and hopefully we see a few names being picked from here to the WPL as well. Fingers crossed. Vidarbha start hua hai, zyada baat nahi karenge. Only 2 days have happened.
Matches,
Yeah, exactly. Bengal is starting soon. What I would want to talk about is, itne leagues ban rahe, the mushrooming of these leagues within India. Do you think it is for the betterment of the sport? Because we cannot, once again, draw direct parallels or try and compare it with men's cricket. They have an evolved structure. They have a structure that's existed for decades. So it works differently there. Yahan pe, the structure itself is still a work in progress. And now all of a sudden you see a lot of these leagues coming up. How do you think would the cricketers be looking at this? And how do you think you look at it? Firstly, as a neutral, as a fan of the sport. And secondly, as also someone who analyzes the sport for a living.
Okay, let's look at it this way. As a neutral and as a fan, it's obviously really happy times because you have cricket playing all the time on your screen. Especially with the Women's Maharashtra Premier League, the matches are timed in a way where, at any given point, you will have something that's coming. So as a fan, I would definitely not want to complain. And the fact that the broadcasting standards too, right, have been so phenomenal. Even the kind of opportunities it just gives, to the umpires, to all the people in the back end as well. It's just helping the entire ecosystem at large with respect to employment opportunities and everything. And for the players themselves, right, they couldn't have asked for a better platform to, just kind of showcase their skills. A lot of times when you're playing domestic cricket, it probably just goes unnoticed or, it's just not broadcasted. So there's no way for, you to have evidence unless you have your video analysts who are shooting it. But having leagues like this just helps those talents, just come to the forefront, be picked by these WPL scouts, which can eventually translate to an India opportunity as well. Also nice to see how most of these leagues are privately funded as well. Some are state-owned. That they at least believe that women's cricket is here. We have an entire talent pool of women cricketers. It just gives them that opportunity. And I will always reiterate the fact that the knowledge transfer that happens, from the international cricketers to the domestic players. I know we saw a lot of reels where, Smriti Mandana was being used as the celebrity. Everyone wanted autographs and pictures and all of that. But it's still the kind of conversations you have with an international cricketer. It gives you that, sort of belief that, hey, I can probably also, one day end up playing in the WBL, play for India and all of that. It just gives you that pathway, right? So for me, it's a win-win in all possible ways. Really sad that some other, states don't have their own leagues. I hope, seeing this, they kind of get inspired. A lot of people will bring in the argument that, hey, where's the crowds? Do these leagues even bring in anything financially? But then unless you start something, you will not really know. And most of these leagues have been doing decently with respect to their marketing side of things, or even the bare minimum, like streaming it for the fans, making it more accessible to the fans. Like fans are allowed to come to the stadium to watch as well. So I'm happy to see that at least the men's league is happening, the women's league is running in parallel, sometimes on the same match day as well. So it's all great signs right now, at least at the surface level for me.
I'm definitely all for it. I think we need more such leagues because we need to ensure that these cricketers are playing more cricket. The only way that they can get better is by playing more. You can practice all you want, you can do how many nets ever you want. It
Match
won't work out.
yeah.
You need game time, you need to be in the middle, you need to face the music. Only then do you understand what works, what doesn't work, and how do you go about it. So I'm happy for that. What I'm trying to think is, from a practical standpoint, from a monetary standpoint, are they making money? Are the leagues making money? I want to say yes. Because the revenues aren't made by gate receipts. Make no mistake, crowds aane ya na aane se zyada farak nahi padta.
Very small part of
the Yeah, very, very, very small. And this is across leagues. This is not just about domestic tournaments. Even for the IPL, like for an IPL team, less than 2% of the total revenue that they make is through gate receipts. So it doesn't make a difference. Sure, the experience and all of that matters, and TV पे खाली जब देखते हो तो लगता है कि यार कोई नहीं देख रहा. But apart from that perception, a lot of the money is made when the streaming rights are sold, when the advertising logos, brands and everyone, they buy advertising slots and all of that stuff. So there, I think it's being taken care of. Nahi to boards themselves would have been cognizant of that and would have refused to, start such a league. Yeah. That's where I wonder what's happening. What is the reason behind someone like a Karnataka or a Tamil Nadu or even a Mumbai for to not start a league like this?
Exactly.
Like you see Kerala, you see Bengal, you see now Maharashtra, you see Delhi, Vidarbha, exactly. You see all of them doing this. That's where I'm trying to think, why aren't then some of the bigger so-called centers for women's cricket not doing anything about it?
A big letdown on it.
So again, I do want to side with them a bit as well. I want to try and understand. I'm not going to simply
benefit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to stand on one side of the fence simply because I think it's bad. We don't know what the other side of the story is. If I'm being practical, Tamil Nadu mein Chepauk hai, Bangalore mein Chinnaswamy hai. Both of these are IPL centers. Both of these see a lot of cricket being played throughout the year. So it could also be the reason that they feel, we need to give it some rest. We can't use these surfaces again and again, so they won't get enough time to take care of it.
But Karnataka at large has so many other...
Exactly. So the answer to that question then would be Mysore, Hubli, there's stadiums there. We've seen the Karnataka Premier League, the erstwhile Karnataka Premier League being played over there. So you can't use that as an excuse. Same is the case with Chepauk. We see the TNPL being played in Coimbatore, we see the TNPL being played in Tirunelveli and the likes. No reason. So that's what makes me wonder what's the reason. And I've made, like in my head, I've made a 6-team Karnataka, 6-team Maharaja or Maharani T20 trophy. I think there are 6 icon players that you can choose to. Like you've got someone like a Veda Krishnamurthy, you've got Vanita, you've got Shriyanka Patil, you've got Shubha Satish, Vrinda Dinesh, and there was a 6th one. I'm pretty sure I thought of a 6th name too. नहीं तो मिल जाएंगे Rajeshwari Gaikwad, of course.
Absolutely.
So there are names that you can use as icon players, and there are definitely enough talents available.
Yeah.
We ourselves have covered a couple of clubs, be it nice where the likes of Shriyanka and Vrinda train, and also other players who come in, Arundhati Reddy and the likes also come and train here at nice.
KIOC.
Yeah, or be it KIOC for that matter. So there are plenty such clubs that take care of talents, that are developing and nurturing talents in Bangalore alone. I'm pretty sure outside Bangalore, in Karnataka too, there are talents. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, in Mumbai, there are enough talents. Makes me wonder what the reasoning is. I'm not going to jump the gun over here. Maybe practicality, maybe just something else that probably is stopping them, or else there's no reason. Karnataka was one of the first ones to start this whole T20 league wala scene when they had an exhibition game. COVID ke time pe, just before, no, during COVID itself.
2019.
Yeah, it was this exhibition game that had happened between Mysore Warriors and Belgavi Panthers. I remember Shubha Satish being a part of it.
Veda Krishnamurthy.
Veda was a part of it. So I hope, matlab, you need that. The more these leagues happen, the more game time, and importantly, scouts would have access to a bigger pool now.
And a larger sample size as well. Right?
Exactly. Like Abhi Vilhal, most scouts would be relying on something like a senior women's T20 trophy alone.
Yeah,
At
Challengers
best,
Trophy and all of that.
exactly. And that's just two tournaments where you will be seeing a very limited pool of players. Now, when you have so many leagues coming up, you can see a lot more players.
Yeah.
And on top of that, once again, make no mistake, not all of these players are selected just based on performances. Sure, performances play a role. But there are attributes that scouts look for. There are attributes that teams look for.
Yeah.
They're not looking at, "Arey, isne 200 run mara ki nahi, 300 run mara ki nahi." There's a reason, again, I'm not saying one is better, the other isn't, but there's a reason why someone like a Prema Rawat went in excess of 1 crore, while someone like a Nandini Kashyap went for only 10 lakhs. One was the leading run scorer in both the Challenger Trophy and, one was the leading run scorer in the Challenger Trophy and had a pretty good senior women's T20 trophy too. The other had only played the Uttarakhand Premier League. So, वो एक है. That's the difference because वो attributes चाहिए. There aren't too many leg spinners, so which is why that's why.
DBL, right? The Delhi Premier League
Yeah,
of helped us unearth a lot of talent, like the likes of Priya Mishra.
That's
too,
true.
You know, coming from that setup. So I really hope we get to see a lot more leagues like this come up. I think there will be an argument from the fans that, you know, this is just a lot of cricket that's coming on our screens. Like fan fatigue is also a thing, right?
So not everything is done for viewers. I mean, that is my response to them. Not everything is done only keeping viewers in mind.
Yeah.
I completely get it. Fan fatigue will set in for us too.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much cricket in general and
we can
women's
cover.
and women's cricket in particular that we can cover. This isn't just for us. They're not just playing to the gallery. And what do you think is entertainment for us? It's someone's job. When you say we are being tired, imagine how much more it is for them because they have to do it.
It is their livelihood and they would really appreciate a lot more.
Exactly. That's where I'm hoping that the leagues get better firstly. And I hope a lot of scouting is happening because itne sari leagues ho rahe. I remember reading this somewhere. Men's tournaments mein there are 21 leagues happening in the next 3 months between June to September. And what we've already counted 7 women's tournaments that will happen. There's Vidarbha, Maharashtra, there's Kerala, there's of course Uttarakhand, there's Delhi, Baroda, that's 6, Bengal, 7. So there are plenty of these tournaments that have begun to happen and hopefully the number will only keep going up in the future.
And we would love to cover them and just talk our hearts about it for you.
Yeah, in case if anyone's watching, we're more than happy to cover. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But T20 leagues ki baat hi kar rahe hain. Of course, the Women's Big Bash, they announced their draft that's scheduled to happen next week on the 19th of June. A couple of Indians have been shortlisted,
Can we
3
first
to be
talk
precise.
about how bad the sketches were of the
You were just waiting.
I was just waiting for it,
Kya kare? So, do you think the sketches were bad or was it the colouring? What was bad? Genuinely asking. I think the sketches were fine.
I think it was the colouring.
Yeah, exactly. It was just the colouring and...
No offense to the artist. Really sorry, but then, I don't know. They should have probably just cross-verified. Yeah.
It's almost like what a white person thinks Indians are. Ye wo wala tha. It wasn't what the player is. It's what a white person thinks.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very weird and very also funny. I would say. I personally don't take offense to it.
No, I didn't take offense, but when I first saw it, I didn't want my attention to fall first on that rather than, actually notice, hey, there's 3 Indian players in this draft nomination, right? Which is a sign of, again, great things. We'd love to see our Indian players, get that opportunity to play in these leagues. We had the likes of Jemima, Shikha, and
Yastika Bhatia. Yeah. These 3 have been, of course, shortlisted for the draft. No one's been retained. No one's been signed in the pre-season signing. Smriti, there were talks about her potentially being signed, but Adelaide Strikers went ahead with Laura Wolfart.
Yeah.
Understandably, availability concerns ho sakta hai, kuch aur bhi ho sakta hai, and all of that. But a lot of interesting names, like always. In fact, if we look at some of the direct signings that happened pre-season, there's Amelia Kerr and Sophie Eccleston for Sydney Sixers. You've got Laura Wolfart, of course, for the Adelaide Strikers. You've got someone like a Sophie Devine who Perth Scorchers haven't let go of. Melbourne Renegades, the defending champions, they have retained Hayley Matthews, and Brisbane Heat have retained Nadine de Klerk. Sydney's Hand, of course, lastly, of course, they've retained Chamari, and Melbourne Stars have retained Maizan Karp. And that rounds off the retained players. Apart from that, of course, there will be the draft. So, as things stand, these direct signings, these players will also be a part of the draft. where the teams who've signed them pre-season will have to use one of their 3 picks to sign them. Uske alawa, there'll be 2 more signings that'll happen during the draft, and that's where you'll see Jemmy, Yastika, and Shikha Pandey being a part of it. Also, you'll see plenty of other players too, make no mistake. There's Danny White-Hodge, you've got someone like a Lindsay Smith, there's Heather Knight.
Sophie Devine is...
No, she's been signed by Perth Scorchers. And from New Zealand, you've got Brooke Halliday, Rosemary Mayer, there's Susie Bates, of course. So there are plenty of names to look forward to. Excited to see how that pans out because, yeah, we saw what happened in the last edition. Melbourne Renegades and that whole story, the way it came to fruition, it was beautiful to watch.
I mean, I think 2025 has been that sort of a year, right, for teams, that haven't historically won, but just ended up on the right side of the result. But Melbourne Renegades, I think Sophie Molyneux, right, was someone who was leading from the front for them. Really gutted that she couldn't play for. It always comes back to RCB, but couldn't play for RCB. But again, Melbourne Renegades would be really happy with the kind of squad that they've built so far, and I think with their signings too, they will be headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and some of the players, coming in from, once again, the lesser known nations, Ola from Ireland, Catherine and Sarah from Scotland.
Yeah.
These are the names that I'd personally be looking forward to. Gaby Lewis, list mein nahi, but I think Gaby Lewis isn't too far from a gig, yaar. Women's CPL ho ya kahin pe ho.
Yeah.
Even maybe the 100 for that matter, if she qualifies as a local player. Which reminds me, Lizelle Lee has now become a local player. So Hobart Hurricanes would have freed up an overseas spot thanks to that coup. Now she has become an Australian. So congratulations to her, of course, on that. And Hobart also, congratulations to them. That's a steal, I would imagine.
It is. Yeah.
Lizelle Lee ko, matlab, aise domestic player bana ke khilana, wonderful.
Yeah,
we saw what she
her
did.
family has settled entirely in Australia. They're all Australian citizens now, so yeah.
There are multiple South Africans who've done that. I don't know if you know, Morne Mokkel's also now an Australian. Johan Botha is an Australian. So
a lot of them end up taking call-back deals as well, right?
So now the call-back doesn't exist. Now that's done. Australia too, you'll have to spend time. There's no way around it. So Morne Mokkel is based in Brisbane. If I'm not wrong, Johan Botha is also based in Brisbane.
Okay.
So they've all settled there. Good for them, of course. As long as they are happy, that's all that matters. But yeah, exciting days. The draft's happening on the 19th of June.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Calendar,
yeah, exactly. And fingers crossed we get to see some new names being picked over there. And yeah, time for us to wrap up this episode. I feel we've talked about everything and more. Excited, of course. Like we said, the India series, the India Tour of England starts on the 28th of June. 5 T20Is starting from Nottingham to Birmingham, of course, where the 5th T20I will happen. It's been great talking about all things women's cricket, man. Like always, but I think this has been one episode that I've thoroughly enjoyed. There have been a bunch of things that we've spoken about. Do make sure you've hit the like button, folks. And please, please, please comments mein bataiega. I know we've not spoken about this up top. Please make sure that you do spam us in the comments. Let us know what do you make of it. Are there any topics that you'd want us to cover? We'll definitely give the WTC chat a hard look and try and see if we can do it in one of the next episodes. Until then, it's a goodbye from both of us. Take care and have a great, great, great weekend.